Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about helping people get promotions. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, how can a tech lead help his teammate get promoted and recognized within the company? Well, as the tech lead, it's usually not your say, like whether or not someone should get promoted or not. It's usually more a question of does the engineering manager have an eye on this individual, and are they going to ask you for confirmation or backing on somebody's promotion or things like that. That's the sort of thing I would say can be within your power to help out. Like basically, can you put in a good word? So the way that I've, at least, when I talk to, because usually when I have been the tech lead, it's usually the case that I'm in contact with the engineering managers who run like all the contracts for the people within the team. And so usually I will, if they're involved and so forth, I will usually tell them in the feedback sessions that I have with them who's doing well, who's not doing so well, and like things we need to improve, etc., etc. And that feedback is the main thing you can do for someone, basically, to give them a positive feedback on that. And then the second part that you need is to understand what matters within your company. That's the thing that's going to make the big difference for your coworker or for your developer who you're trying to help. Because the way to be promoted within a company almost always differs a little bit based on the values of that company. But there are a few like core things that are almost always going to be, to a certain degree, a big factor. And that is how much impact do you have, and how long is your track record of doing good. That's universally, I would say, across almost every single, those things are involved in every single case, basically, to a certain degree. And what that basically means is that if you want to help your software developer to improve, they are going to have to basically learn how to have significant impact, and then they can just wait and do good work, like continuously doing good over a period of time, and then increase their impact. And so the way that you usually do that is that you look for everything from just delivering, being a pleasant time. Like usually it starts with the basics: deliver software readily, well made, like be knowledgeable about the craft, and treat your coworkers really nice so they like you. These two things are fundamental to absolutely everything you do. And if you can master that part, that's not necessarily going to give you a promotion, but it's going to make you a very, very pleasant person to be around and to have in the team. And without that, nothing else, almost very little else is going to matter usually. So start with that. And then you tell them and basically explain to them the sort of traits that the company is usually looking for. Because usually the next natural step for a team member within your team to get promoted to is to basically have your job to be a tech lead, to take over or something like that. And the way you coach them into doing that is, at least that's how I have done it, is to have them shadow you. It's that simple, really. You have to give them exposure to the sorts of work, like the tasks that you are doing. I'm a strong believer in like the mentorship methodology of teaching people practically anything, and that's how I usually do it. I've had a few people work with me who have they became tech leads, or like they got promoted after a little while. I'm not going to say, it's their effort. I'm not going to take credit for that whatsoever. All I did was to explain to them that usually these are the sort of things that you are going to be doing when you're a tech lead or like an architect or something like that. So if you just sit with me, or like we sort of walk it through, then you're going to see like that's basically it. An example where I've done this is when I do hiring and things like that. It's been it's been as simple as, I'm going to invite you and you can sit in on this like interview with this person, and then we're going to do this for a few weeks because we continuously hire, right? And after a little while, we're gonna start with, you might just sit in on the conversation and have a nice time with me and the candidate, and then you're gonna ask your own questions, a few of them maybe. I'll give you a chance to do some talking, and then after a little while, on top of that, you are gonna run the whole show. I'm gonna be you. I'm going to be the one who's more observing and might chime in here and there, but for the most part, you're running the show. And to me, that is the best way you can do it if you want to help them get promoted. Because if they can do your job, and if they can provide the same sort of value, and then the rest is really, it's really a matter of, does the company need this person at a certain level, or like, do they, is it a more personal matter? You can't really help them more than that, in my personal opinion, at the very least. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you want to help your software teammates get to be a tech lead or an architect or whatever, start with the basics. Make sure that they have the foundation for being promoted, because some people don't, and the people who usually don't get promoted in an IT company are the people who are either like difficult to work with, or like they don't really have the skills or so forth, or they're lone wolves, they're asocial, like etc etc. If they have any friction like that going on average in the company, or with this individual, it's usually not it's difficult. I mean, you can give them the same coaching methodology, but it's usually a question, it's not the case that this person is probably going to be promoted. Hence why the job hopping thing is such a big deal in our industry, because it's usually easier to get a salary bump as a software developer by skipping to another company than it is to get because it's more difficult to get promoted. A promotion is usually a lot more difficult, and in some cases basically impossible. But for those of you who want to have like a higher salary, and like you want to actually make it higher up in the food chain, because I mean, if you think that you make a lot of money being a consultant, for example, as a front-end developer, a back-end developer, you have no idea how much. It's insane what you will make if you're like an architect, or like it's the equivalent of being like max level, and on top of that getting the like the same sort of salary bumps as the consultants are getting. So it's not like you shouldn't try to get promoted, but you have to have, as I said, the sort of personality who can actually do that sort of work, and it's far from everybody who can do that. A lot of people I've worked with and I've interviewed are people who they're going to be software developers, and it's fine. I mean, it's not that you have to progress, but you have to sort of be honest with yourself. Are you the sort of person who has that magical combination of people skills, leadership and vision and so forth, and technical skills to deal with a higher role within an IT organization? And not everybody does. A lot of the people who I know who have gone into engineering management semi-regret the change a little bit, because they've figured out that it was easier for them to be a software developer and actually get work as a software developer than it is to be an engineering manager. Because you usually don't need all that many engineering managers in comparison to senior software developers. Hence, then they start losing their software skills, and if you're not really careful there, it might be difficult for you to get another management job in another company because reasons. Anywho, but the way you can do it is as I said, try to coach them, like to have shadow sessions with them. The way I like to do it is just my personal favorite is to have them go into the same meetings and collaborate, and have them sort of like sit down with you if you're gonna do a presentation, or if you're gonna like talk about something, or you host some meetings, or you take responsibility in certain product meetings and so forth. And then I go one further depending on the level of the person, and I basically sit down and I have a conversation about what just happened with the person I'm trying to help. Basically we just sit and talk, and I say, that candidate, well, I was thinking this and that, and then they said this, etc. You just kind of air your thoughts with the person, because what you want is for them to see what it's all about, what are you doing, and how do you think about the problem, because in the beginning they're going to draw most of their knowledge from your thoughts, and after a little while they're going to develop their own thoughts, and when they're starting to give you their own input in a ready manner, and you can see that you don't have to, if they are just there, they can basically do the thing without you having to sit there. That's the level they should be at when they're really up for, like, this is now, it's really up to the powers that be if they're going to get promoted, because now they can basically do the job. Have a great day.